and from their world we will build a better one. That we were told over and over again. This is the Bennett Brothers podcast for the Marvel's Xmen Apocalypse movie. I'll say Fox's Xmen Apocalypse movie. And I'm Jerry Bennett.
And I'm Joel Bennett. And thank you for joining us. For those of you joining us for the first time, we are a podcast dedicated to everything Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in our special episode here today, we are dedicated to also superhero movies and Star Wars movies and
whatever floats our
geek
boat.
Movies, yeah, and whatever floats our boat. We got to do
Welcome
that.
to the Float the Boat podcast.
We got to do that review on Zeus and Roxanne. We never did that one. We should do that.
What?
Zeus and Roxanne? Because it's such a bad movie. That's
where you're gonna go.
It's
with?
an old inside
You're
joke.
Go with
there's
Zoolander?
one person laughing right now.
We didn't even get 30 seconds in and we're off. Get back on course.
All right, back on course. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the new X-Men movie, Apocalypse. We're going to spoil the heck out of it. So you haven't seen it yet, stop listening to us.
And go see it?
Okay, and go see it. And then
so
listen
you're
to us.
recommending the movie is what you're saying.
And then listen to why people. I want people to listen to our podcast.
No,
so
but when we did the Fantastic Four podcast, we didn't say stop and go see it. We said don't go see it.
We just said don't go see it. Listen to us for all of it.
Yes.
But
this
I
time
have
we're saying go see
I have
it.
a feeling a lot of you are gonna go see it and then listen to us. I bet there's a few of you. Maybe we'll see. Anywho, we're gonna spoil the heck out of it. So be prepared. We're gonna give you Easter eggs. Talk about our feelings about the movie and about life.
This is our 99th podcast. 99 days. 99th podcast.
That's
we're
exciting.
saving it for X-Men, yes. And then the next one will be some other number. I don't know. So X-Men Apocalypse. It's been out almost a week or about a week by the time this podcast airs. Joel just saw it.
I saw it. Was gone during the Memorial Day weekend. So
I saw it
wasn't
about 3 days ago. So I'm not as up on as Joel is. Joel's an X-Men expert. He's been reading the X-Men for...
I'm the X-Men cartoon show expert. That's where I live. So we're gonna
do a Gambit imitation. People love that.
Oh, they love when I do that.
Or do Wolverine. This one's for you, Morph. Oh God.
Speaking of Morph, let's talk about our opinions. Our opinions, our thoughts.
What did you think of the movie?
I will go first. So I've just seen it, so I haven't had any time to let it sink in. To give a sort of an idea how that is. Like when I saw Phantom Menace the first time, I thought it was a great thing right afterwards. so that taken with a grain of salt, I really enjoyed this movie. I really the whole time was riveted, engaged. There are problems with it structurally, and then also detail problems that I have with it. So it's not a perfect film. I wouldn't rank this in my top 5 greatest superhero films of all time, but it's definitely an entertaining film. I think it's probably just below Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past has more sentimental value for me. But that being said, I really enjoyed this movie. I actually would put this probably on par with Batman v Superman this year. I think they're two different styles of films. One has more of a history as far as the characters are concerned and all that. But I would say if I had to choose between those two movies to watch right now, I'd have a difficult time picking it. Now I think Civil War. I know this is where I'm comparing these things, but I would pick Civil War over these two. Now where do I put Daredevil? Where do I put Deadpool in there? That's a good question as well. But I would say it's a really good film. I really enjoyed it.
Good,
Jerry.
It's funny that you mentioned the so close to it. When I was in the movie. Halfway through the movie, I turned to my kid, and I'm like, I am really enjoying this film. And I did. And afterwards, I was like, I really enjoy this film. And if I had done my initial assessment, I would be like, and raving, I would be giving it an A. I'm giving this movie a B on my rating scale. J is the highest, Q is the next, how that mixes in there. But I give this movie a solid B. Because as we will talk about, there are parts in there that did, upon reflection, don't hold up that as well as I liked. Having said that, again, I still enjoyed the heck out of it. I will watch it again. It was a good movie, but there are definitely problems with it. My background is X-Men got me into comics back in the 80s to the point where I read everything that had an X in it. X-Factor, X-Force, Excalibur, to the point where I still read some of them today. And it's weird because when you're watching this movie, because we live in a world now where there's the Marvel universe where it's doing everything right. If this movie had come out back in 2000, this would have been the greatest movie of all time. Because it would nothing like it. But now we live in a world where there are 13 Marvel movies, and this is the 8th, maybe 9th movie because of Deadpool.
It also depends if you want to count Wolverine Origins.
Well, but it is, you know.
It's a bad movie.
Hey, this is.
Some people don't count that one.
But I'm saying this exists. So I really enjoyed the film. There's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work, and it's weird because of Marvel, like with Fox. When we went to go see Fantastic Four, we kind of wanted it to fail, which was really weird. But I don't feel that way with this one. But there is part of me that does want Marvel to get it back.
Imagine this being in the Marvel universe, though.
I mean, well, you know, and you could do it. My kid brought up the greatest point. He's like, if you ever wanted to do it, if they ever, you know, hey, we never thought Spider-Man would come in, and it has. If you ever wanted to do it, all you have to do is tell the story from House of M, when Scarlet Witch said no more mutants, and all the mutants were gone. You just have a storyline where mutants come home, you know, whatever the wording is, and you could bring them in, and they were there the whole time, but we forgot about them. So you could always bring them in. Again, that won't happen, and if it does, it won't happen with anybody we recognize. Not that there's many that left anyways, including, you know, we're down to Hugh Jackman, really, and that's on a ticking time clock as it is. So yes, I give it a B. We'll get into it. Good points and bad points. We'll try not to dwell too much on the bad points there.
Sure.
Because there's a lot to like in this movie. Mm-hmm. So I will let you kind of structure it.
Well, interesting. I want to continue off that what you're saying right there before we get any sort of structured conversation. I think this movie and the past 2 movies have benefited from what Marvel did, and this also is a little bit of Pixar too, in the creation of a universe where we're creating continuity. And Pixar is minor compared to this, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe in particular, this created universe. And I think that's made these films even better, the past 3 films, because they are forced to pay attention to their older stuff as well as talk about their newer stuff.
Except when they don't.
Except for when they don't.
All over the place.
Which is one of the things I do like about it, but it's also one of the things I don't like about it. There's a lot of smart stuff in there where they are connecting it, but they're allowed to go. I think the smart thing with them is I can let them go, oh, we didn't mean to do that there, so we're just not going to ignore it.
I can let them do it once or twice. They've done it dozens of times. I understand that they didn't make it that way, but I'm saying they're doing it in between the last movie and this movie. They've still said F you to continuity because they don't know what to do.
What do you have? What is the example? I haven't thought about that.
So the last movie ends. There's Wolverine. Stryker's got him. What's he going to do? It's not Stryker. It's Mystique. And this movie, nothing is ever mentioned about that. Stryker has Wolverine, not Mystique. But
it's 10 years later, so.
What happened? And here's how the writer, Simon Kinberg, here's how he wrote it. He basically, in an interview, said, well, there are parts in time that can't be changed. So time has a way, again, we dealt with a time travel movie last time. Time has a way of going back to these fixed points. You can't change it. And so somehow Wolverine ended up in that situation anyways. That's how he wrote it. So my point is, so then eventually the Sentinels were always going to take over and there's no sense of doing it. Well, that part isn't actually locked. So wait, you're picking and choosing what you want to lock because you couldn't write up a situation where they clearly ended it where it's like, oh my God, it's Mystique. What's it going to do? That was just 2 years ago that movie came out. Okay,
so I never read that. I never read that interview. And basically my logic was, there was 10 years in between this movie and the last movie, or roughly around there.
So she locked him up. He got his adamantium and then she just ditched him.
Something happened. I'm not saying that.
A line of dialogue.
Oh, sure, a line of dialogue.
And they couldn't even be bothered to do that. I'm just saying that's one of those continuity. We're talking about continuity in this subject.
Why does Wolverine look way older than he did back then?
No, that's not.
Well, it can be because we've seen movies now, Marvel movies in particular, where they can take the actor and make him look younger. So they could have done that with Wolverine in this movie, made him look a lot younger again.
I can see that, but I don't find that as a I mean, that's just filmmaking versus. You know, because people look. Because in other words, why is that not a young Halle Berry then? Well, I'm not worrying about that either. Why is it not a young?
It's a storytelling, and I would agree with you on that. But
that's all I'm saying. Just within regards to continuity, and we're talking about the X-Men universe, where the Marvel universe is really keeping that in the forefront, and the DC universe may be doing it, even though they'll mess up here and there. The X-Men world has suffered from that, and they try to course correct, and. You know, the first 3 movies are a straight storyline. The Wolverine Origins comes out and just is a mess.
mess.
Big mess. They come up with First Class, which I think is still the best one because of Matthew Vaughn's directing. It's just a solid film. Everything about it's very slick. I like that director. I'm partial to him. He did Kingsman. He did Kick-Ass. And then they come out with the next Wolverine movie, which I really like that film.
You liked that a lot more than I did. I thought that was.
I thought it was a really good film. I thought it was a good film, and again, it kind of plays with the storyline, but then it bleeds into the next one, and we're like, oh, this is a clever way to combine the old cast and the new, and it kind of works. Where it's like, well, Wolverine is off in some, future because his body, that timeline maybe ceased to exist. It became an alternate future, and there was two alternate futures. There's the future where he came from. There's the future he goes back to, and then there's the future of whatever's going on with this existing cast. And then, but there's still many you can break it down like, well, how come Nightcrawler is this age? Or actually, what's the biggest one is how come Jubilee is a teenager in the 80s and a teenager in the 2000s? Yeah, I don't know. She just is. That's she Jubilee's mother, Jubilee too. But maybe she gets frozen for 20 years.
Oh yeah, no, there are those continuity, but there's ones that they did right too. I mean, there are a lot of things that like. I think the Quicksilver one was a perfect example. And it was a line of dialogue. It's like, 10 years has passed and you're still in your mother's basement. Like he was not.
They acknowledged that. He was
not like a 12-year-old in the last movie. He was like 15, 16. That means he's 26 now or something in this
Let's say
movie.
He was 17, so he's 27.
Yeah, and so they acknowledge it. So it's a line of dialogue, like you're saying.
Now,
and that
Havoc,
solve that.
Havoc is 20 years older than he was in the first movie in 1963. Even if he doesn't look it, that means, okay, so there's like a 20-year difference between him and his brother? Well, maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe it works. Maybe it works. Maybe it's like you and I. Maybe it's a 12-year difference.
We talk about that, the aging of the comics. Like if Magneto was around during World War II, and now this is the 80s.
They fixed that in the comic books. He got turned to a baby by a celestial being, and then when they brought him to an adult, and he was a young man version.
Well, he's and in my mind, like I let X-Men slide on a lot of this kind of continuity stuff because they started it before they wanted to do continuity. The first three X-Men movies, X-Men 2 were good. They weren't bad for at the time. Now it's like you look back and go, oh man, like I wish they had
X2
thought
was on
about
television the other day, and
doesn't hold up or does?
No, it does. I mean, I'm watching it going, man, for all the things Singer may do wrong, he hits moments that work really well, and there were moments in that movie. There's clearly moments in this movie. And, we can get into some of those moments now. I will say I've read reviews on this movie, and I don't know what you've read, but they've been, fair to mediocre, not necessarily with such hatred as Batman v Superman, which, again, you and I both liked, that got panned by a bunch of critics, not necessarily box office-wise. It's actually at $872 million. What a failure, But this one is already doing box office one, and some of the criticism is some of it's valid and some of it's just garbage. I mean, people that I like, and I'll listen to different podcasts, and I've listened to some of the reviews, and I'm like, nah, your argument there doesn't hold water. Okay, that point did, but these other 10 don't.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it's fatigue or, I'm not even saying superhero fatigue. I don't know if it's X-Men fatigue, because I don't think this movie is necessarily any different than the Matthew Vaughn film had different feel for it, but I don't think it didn't stylistically change anything up from any of the other films. Sans maybe Matthew Vaughn and X-Men First Class. So that being said, maybe some people are like, oh, this is just another superhero movie.
Well, they've seen it too. I guess they feel they've seen, this is the origin of these characters. And I get that. That's...
But hey, for me, I love it.
And which is funny, because I was listening to a podcast, and they were saying, I don't want this. You know what they should do? They should reboot it. I'm like, so you want another origin? The logic doesn't go behind it. I'm loving these characters, because my experience with X-Men, you start with the comics, mine was the 90s television show. That was my X-Men experience, and those are the characters I love. I mean, everyone says they love Jubilee. I'm like, I don't like Jubilee. I've never liked her in the TV series. I didn't dislike her, but I never really was thrilled with her. But I was Kitty Pryde, because Kitty Pryde was
Kitty Pryde's not mine. Like I don't even know who mine would. I liked Rogue and Storm.
Well, no, my character was always Wolverine. Before Wolverine was popular, I was like, no, this character is incredible.
So I love, and we're getting to that point with the characters that I care about. So like First Class, I like Magneto, and so let me. I bring up Magneto because maybe we'll get a little bit more of the structure here. No, we won't. I'm going to keep talking about what I like and what I dislike about the film. The one thing that really works for this film, though, that really works really well, and in my opinion, it's the saving grace of the film, the actors they have in this movie, and I'm specifically talking about
Jennifer Lawrence and your love for her character in this movie.
Oh god, that
kind of backfired as soon as you said that.
No. The having Michael Fassbender and having James McAvoy, those two guys are they can pull off a Patrick Stewart.
Oh, they're
and
fantastic.
Ian McKellen.
They are fantastic.
They are
specifically Fassbender. Yeah,
he is his gravitas on screen that when you're watching Apocalypse control him, you're sitting there going, like, Magneto's a much scarier villain. And he's just a scarier villain than Apocalypse to me. Even in this movie, even though we can see how powerful Apocalypse is, I'm watching like Magneto. That's the villain, and that's the villain. So much so, it made me think about. I had a buddy, James Knight, who's a big comic fan, and he was talking about how do you do a Red Skull movie in the Marvel. How do you have Red Skull come back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And he's like, they could do like a Red Skull movie, and it's from his point of view. And I was like, that would be an awesome movie. That would be a fantastic Suicide
Hollywood
Squad.
Wants to make a Nazi movie, Joel.
Well, maybe not
that
Nazi
will go
movie,
over huge.
But like Suicide Squad, telling from the villain's point of view, and I was like, that's why I love Magneto and James McAvoy. And yes, Mystique, you could throw her in there, and I was hoping they were gonna kill her off this movie. I was really hoping because she's not Mystique, she's Jennifer Lawrence, in my opinion. That's all she was.
Her name and her stature in Hollywood affected the storyline in a way it shouldn't have been. That is a problem I have with this. Because this character is not the character from the other movies, and it's definitely not the character from the comic books. And they asked Bryan Singer about that, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I kind of took her from the Age of Apocalypse, where they kind of did this thing where the bad guys are good and everything." He was stretching and looking for it. He's like, "Yes, she's not only not an X-Man, but she's not the leader of the X-Men." There was one of the ideas of the storyline was there was many options, but they were going to do with Wolverine. And 1 point, Wolverine was going to come back in the middle of the movie and be like a drill sergeant, but they didn't want to take that away from the Mystique character. I'm not saying either one of those was the appropriate way to go.
I thought they were going to kill her off in this movie. I thought she was gone.
Hoped. I'm worried because they don't actually have, apparently under their contracts, all three of them, if they're going to do another movie, if one of them doesn't want to do it, none of them can do it. Again, Magneto, I've seen you in, let's see what it is, all 6 X-Men movies. So I don't care if Magneto is great, but there's a ton of other villains to use. Say bye-bye Magneto. Mystique, bye-bye. It's fine. You're gone. I don't need to see it. Nothing against the character. The character's great, and they've done some stuff, and it was very clever how they tied her in centrally into Days of Future Past with the Sentinels. But goodbye. And Xavier, he's dead, and he's been dead in the books so many times. You don't have to have him in there. Or they can do like they've done in almost all the other movies, where they find a way of disabling him and knocking him out. X-Men 1, knocked him out for half the movie. X-Men 2, him and Cyclops, knocked out of the movie. X-Men 3, dies. They keep finding ways of removing, because they're like, we don't know how to write for him. We have no idea what to do because he's way too powerful. He comes into rooms and he goes, everybody stop. And they're like, wow, why don't we just use him the whole time? Knock him out halfway through the movie, because otherwise, what's the guy with the claws going to do? But
what's the guy with the claw? What's Psylocke gonna do?
The guy with the claw's gonna walk up like, well, they're all frozen. What am I gonna do? Just walk up and go stabby. Like they're not moving. But so you can get rid of Xavier. I say get rid of all 3 of them. They've got enough.
If that's the case, that sucks. If that's their contract situation, that sucks.
It seems weird
because like I said, that's one of their saving graces of.
Well, the next movie would be called Mystique and the X-Men.
Oh, Jesus.
She has it in her contract to be that, and she's also not going to be blue
not
at
that
all.
Not that I don't mind what they did with her in this. Like I like what they did with the Storm origin, how she was revered. And
and I do like the redemption of a villain. I do, and I do that with Magneto because that's what Magneto did in the books. The books, he eventually became a teacher, and he became part of him. He is an X-Man, which is crazy, and he is. And sometimes an editor or somebody will come in and like, we need to make him a villain again, and it's like, no, it's not going to stick. They had the Juggernaut for a year. He became an X-Man. It was awesome, and then somebody comes in and goes, nope, got to be a bad guy, and I was like, no. Let's talk about some of the moments in the movie. The opening sequence in Egypt, which
they're going to talk about the X in the Fox.
Oh yeah, I always watch
that. But the music this time was different. They added the X-Men music into the opening Fox.
They did that before.
I believe that. Well, I guess I don't remember because I thought it was the first time.
I'm pretty sure they did that before because I didn't surprise me. So the Egypt scene, I thought was really cool. It was like, oh, who are these 4 other horsemen? I was kind of like intrigued, even though they weren't from the books. I'm like, oh, that guy's cool. And
there are some brutal deaths in that scene when she squishes the one guy and he's like, oh,
that was incredible. And I've heard people come like, oh, wow, so this whole pyramid's got this fail-safe thing. Well, whatever. Maybe it was a cult of people who built that in there.
He built it.
well, maybe. Well, yeah, you're talking about the pre-scene from the. Well, again, there's another one. Look at that. Look at the post-credit scene of the last movie. Unless that took place 1,000 years before this movie.
I thought
the opening
it did,
was. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but I thought I was under the impression that Apocalypse built the thing. Now I don't know
With all those fail-safes to knock it down.
I didn't know that.
Because that didn't come down like just closing doors. That took it out.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
But anyways, the opening was incredible. I was very impressed with that, which actually, in hindsight, I had to think about that because there was a slow build through a big chunk of this movie. And, of course, there's a lot of action at the end. But up until when we get the Quicksilver scene, there is just, it's a lot of setting up, a lot of moving the pieces around, going over here, going over there. And so they gave you that opening scene that was pretty impressive. Until we get into the like, let's fly through things again. They love to fly through things in CG and just look at the cameras going through it.
I was trying to show time passing, I guess.
I like that. I'm just saying there were several points in this movie where they would fly.
Oh, there was a
things.
moment though in the beginning. I went and saw with my girlfriend because everyone knows I like to point that out when I say this. But it happened. It's right in the beginning when it was going over like the desert and the shadow and the darkness. It was hurting my eyes. By the way, did you see the 3D or non-3D?
Non-3D.
Non-3D here, but it was like hurting my eyes because it was this weird hypnotic sort of like.
I'm not seeing 3D again unless it's in the high frame rate IMAX. That's the last time it was good. I'm not saying. No more. So that scene was great, and then we get into the 80s.
Well, so explain to me. So, Apocalypse.
The first mutant.
Okay, so Apocalypse played by Isaac Isers.
By Poe Dameron.
By Poe Dameron. Oscar
Poe
Isaacs.
Dameron lips. I think is how they want to pronounce that.
Okay.
Yes. Apocalypse.
Did you like him?
He was fine. I hated what they did with the head of him. There's a video online of showing him like the guys who did the makeup and other bunch of stuff had created a much more comic book related headpiece that once you see that you go, oh man, why does he gotta look like one of the villains from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or whatever people are saying it looks like? And I didn't like that too much, but overall the character was fine.
Could have used him growing because I remember that being a thing.
Yes, yeah, and they did
bit
acknowledge
in the
it.
Sequence, but.
The point where he turns into Hive and kills those guys in Egypt by cutting their heads off.
So what is
that's
explain his armor to me. I can't explain from the movies. I know in the comics that he's like Celestials and like there's stuff
all
like that,
sorts of things. He has this ship that's called literally ship. That's like his. There's all sorts of.
But like they made a big deal about having his armor in this. Maybe they were referencing the fact that his power comes from outer space.
Well, no, he
somehow.
keeps whatever. Well, it could be, but I don't think you'll never know that.
Well, I don't think they're going to expand the universe. But here's the thing: they could expand the X-Men universe if they really. I mean, the Deadpool movie was such a success. Maybe they'll do more spin-offs and one thing. I know they're filming Wolverine 3.
Yes, Old Man Logan.
And so I mean, they could do more spin-offs where it's like, hey, let's explain Weapon X before that, or that can get its own movie and stuff like that. And that would answer your questions about what happened with Mystique and then Wolverine. I'm just saying they could do that kind of stuff. But anyways, go on.
The sequence in Cairo when he's getting Storm, that was an example of some coolness, but slow. Like there was a slogging through it. Like when he's putting that one guy in the wall.
Oh, that's such a brutal death.
But it's like also like that was like a full minute longer than it needed to be. And like when he does it to Cyclops at the end, and just kind of does it. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like there was a slowness to this that he was building that I wish they could have tightened up.
Didn't bother me. That was one of those like terrifying moments. Like, his eyes are just open. It's like that guy's just stuck in the wall.
I like him watching Star Trek on TV. That was funny.
Nice. We also had we have a cameo before that. So we get to meet Angel. We see Angel for the first time.
And we see the Blob.
Now the continuity of it's a different Angel than the Angel from X-Men Last Stand.
That's not to think about it.
That's not to think about that one.
Nightcrawler was done very well in this movie. Mm-hmm. Well done on Nightcrawler.
They gave him the red jacket, which was awesome.
Yes, at the end too. Yeah, he actually had his circus outfit on earlier. I think he was in circus.
We had the Blob.
Angel,
like you said,
Angel was interesting, until he wasn't. He was just again a character that was like
he's big in the Age of Apocalypse comic. Like the thing, he was the Angel of Death, right? Like
yes, he was actually one of the Horsemen. And that's how he became not just Angel, he became Archangel.
And that's what I wish I wanted them to put the full headgear on. They started doing, and then they were interrupted. I was like, no, don't interrupt him. They were going to give him the full covering of the head, and that's what I wanted. Because again, 90s X-Men, that's where, and then toys and all that kind of stuff. That's what I grew up with.
The use of Storm, loved it when I started reading the X-Men. She had the mohawk, loved seeing that. The character of Psylocke showing up, the fact that they made her more of a villain, and I'm okay with that. They didn't kill her. They had her lurking in the shadows. She's definitely an option because one of the movies they're talking about spinning off, besides New Mutants, they're talking about making X-Force. And on X-Force, it's a covert X-Men team, like this one isn't. On that team is made up of Wolverine, Psylocke, Deadpool, like right there, they like boom, boom, and Angel, and a couple other characters.
Is Angel dead?
Don't know, and honestly don't care about that particular one.
It's hard to do Angel right because, I mean, I thought this was the best. It wasn't good in X-Men Last Stand, and I know he's one of the original X-Men, and you have to figure out how to use him. But he's not a good X-Men to begin with. Like, what's your power?
When they do the Archangel stuff, when he's doing those metal wings, that was cool.
Stuff, yeah. When he spun to get out of the cage and all that. There's certain ones that do hard. Like Psylocke for me, again, I thought they did really cool with her blade. That was awesome. Is that right on?
Yeah,
on
she
the
was
comics?
working for Caliban, who was actually a mutant, part of the Morlocks. They kind of did. I mean, they didn't really do much with him, but he is a character from the books.
Great looking actor though. We had a bunch of other cameos and like little Easter eggs. Charles Xavier is reading to his class. He's reading the Once and Future King, which is
Magneto.
Which Magneto was reading
I read
in the jail cell in
X-Men
2, the glass prison cell. And then we have probably the best sequence in the whole movie, in my opinion. It's so fantastic, the Quicksilver stuff.
Which I've heard people say, like in a stupid review. I'm very frustrated with it. It's like, oh, it's more of the same, and it's not as good. I'm like, are you insane?
It was awesome.
It was incredible.
When
it was
the music
better.
kicks in?
It was great. I mean, people put it online. I watched it again because it's fantastic.
It's so clever. It's so
well done. Again, he's Peter Maximoff and not Pietro. It's Quicksilver. What's the connection? They do the Magneto connection. My kid was really upset with the fact that they didn't have him say at the end, "I'm your son." It's like, why are you not wasting that? Why not do that?
They're saving it for something else.
I know, but they felt it was.
What do you mean? Here's the other thing. Magneto's so interesting of a character, but Magneto, I think, just killed like hundreds of thousands of people. Because I don't think Apocalypse brainwashed these people.
I don't think so either.
He just gave them power. And we've had this conversation on our podcast about brainwashing, and if you're brainwashed, then you're not. We can't blame you for what you do. Magneto killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, he's killed people already.
He has, but now he's a mass, and like he just isn't free in the world. I know he helped stop Apocalypse, but it's like, but yeah, you like went along with it, man. Like you're a bad human being, which is fine because he is a villain. But man, he killed a lot of people.
Let's get into Magneto here. The sequence where, again, it's 10 years since the last movie. He's gone off and has a wife and a daughter. Mm-hmm. That is out of the books. The daughter's name is different. And that's different character than Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And it is very similar where his daughter does get killed. The wife doesn't get killed. She leaves.
Anya is in the comics, not Nina.
Yeah, that was a different. I don't know why they would. I have no idea why they don't do that.
Either.
But, and of course, that guy who had that little bow, they should have given a crossbow because that arrow went right through two people. That guy's incredible. Incredible. I did think it was clever how they didn't have their metal badges. Everything was dealt well. And as soon as I saw those arrows, I'm like, oh, they're going to somehow stab them, or at least the little girl. It was a very powerful scene. It made me think about like his powers, like when he takes that necklace and he has it go through all those guys in that brutal scene.
Guardians of the Galaxy?
And he's not looking at that happening. He's looking down. It made me start to think about that the way the power works, it must be something more with the brain, how he's not just controlling metal like if I use my eyes and I look over there and I'm able to levitate something. It must be organic where he can he can process it differently, like when he's doing it at the end when he's somehow he's taking all the metal in the world and making it go in circles for some reason.
Magnetic field waves.
But he's able to see it without actually using his eyes, I guess is what I'm saying. That was a
really quick cameo from that actor who was explaining the magnetic fields coming through the Earth's water, and that actor.
What scene are we talking about?
When we go into like the Pentagon or whatever it is, and they're explaining to the U.S. military.
Oh yeah.
They had that one guy who's been in.
He was on Heroes.
He was on Heroes. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, he barely had a moment.
He was right there. He's in and out.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it was effective. Like I felt for him. And this is now negative, as I said. The strength of the acting was awesome. This is one of those moments that, not that moment, but I thought they did the mind stuff wrong.
What mind stuff?
When he's in the mine or the factory, I'm sorry, not the mine, the factory, and he's talking to them all, and he's telling them how he's going to kill them and all that kind of stuff. Which this took me right out of me. I'm like, He's speaking to them in English. They don't speak English. Why is he talking in English?
I don't care about
He's
that.
doing this whole bit, and they're all scared, and it's like...
Because they knew, the creators knew that the dramatic scene was going to be much more powerful to hear it versus having to read it. That was a creative approach that they said if he's making these statements, and it's a powerful speech he makes there, very powerful. It is more powerful for people to hear it and not have to read it.
Yeah, but then the one guy responds in English, responds in the foreign language subtitles, and I was like, but it took me out of the movie. I mean, you can say that around, like, audiences like need to hear it in English in order to have any sort of powerful reaction to it. I disagree. I mean, I know it's not exactly what you're saying, but for me, it took me out going, all these guys are sitting there.
You don't know if they can speak English. Well, because English is a very second language all over the place.
They could all speak English. That could be true, but I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But I'll take that logic on. That'll sit with me okay.
Good to know.
Remember the other thing that really bothered me in this movie? It was such a little bit that really bothered me, but when Nightcrawler gets knocked out and then you hear someone go, "Oh, he just used all his energy. He's low on energy." Like, what is this, a video game? Like, he's running out of energy? That's not the way anyone talks. No one talks, "Oh, he's out of energy, and that's why he's passed out." And they literally said he's out of energy. Like, okay, so Nightcrawler works on energy? Like, it was one of those moments I was like, oh, stupid. Why would you do that? Why don't you say, like, oh, he got knocked out, or he's, I don't know, he's exhausted. Like, there's another way to write it. I'm not the writer, and I shouldn't have to come up with the answer, but there's a better way to write it than saying he's out of energy.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, it made sense other than, you know what, for me, it made sense other than don't just do the staple of hitting him in the back of the head and making him go unconscious. Sure. That would have been the other way to do it, so. It didn't
show his eyes, like, blinking and then passing out.
Let's talk about stuff we liked in this. And the big thing that you mentioned was the Quicksilver scene.
Great stuff.
Everything about that scene, the comedy in it, you have to watch it again just see some of the silly stuff he does in that while he's doing these incredible moments. It makes you want to see a movie with just him. I don't know about you, but the audience I was at, when his feet enter the frame and the Sweet Dreams kicks in, people are like, "Woo, this is it. Here we go." That's phenomenal for what is not really even traditionally an X-Men character. He's been an X-Men here and there. He's more of an Avengers character.
They did him
well. They didn't do actually the character right from the books, but the character they've kind of created here, I'm fine with. But I would not. This is not a character that exists in the comic books at all. The character in Avengers: Age of Ultron is much closer to what it was. He's nothing like this in the books. Nothing.
He starts punching Apocalypse at the end, too.
That was great, too.
That was great.
Were you worried for him when Apocalypse had him?
No. I mean, it was interesting, like, the fact that I'm going to say quote-unquote because it's comics, that they killed Havoc. Set the stakes up like, they could kill people.
He's lucky he made it this far. They could have killed him off in the last movie.
They could kill off more people, but... the only one I ever felt that they might kill was Jennifer Lawrence, Mystique. She was the only one I thought had the potential to die. I didn't think they were going to really kill off anyone else, although they could have killed off Angel. So, you know, they did kill off something else that I was, again, Easter eggy for me, but having the whole jet, the Blackbird. There's the Blackbird, the old stealth fighter, the old G.I. Joe toy, as I like to refer to it. And they blow it up and they get a different ship that's a little more modern, I guess.
It looks like
modern
a bird.
Modern for the 80s, I guess. But I love seeing that in there. It's like, oh, that's great. And then they get
SR-71 Blackbird. That was awesome.
So that's a good. I don't know if is that from that's out of the comics. Too,
oh yeah,
right?
dead out of the comics.
And that has been in a previous. That's been in the.
Yeah, they've had different kinds of X-Men jets, and the books have done that too. But it originally always was an
that's
SR-71
the one I remember
Blackbird.
from. That's the one from the cartoons too.
Oh, I was excited seeing that thing in real life. You know, going to see that plane at some air museum. I was like, oh my God, there's the X-Men. You know, it's a real plane. You know, that was awesome.
Sir, get your nerdy attitude out of here. This is not the X-Men plane. This is a machine of war.
Yes, exactly. No, you don't understand. You see, you can phase into it.
We had a great little joke in the movie that I enjoyed when they went and saw Return of the Jedi. And they come out and start talking about the third movie being the worst.
Is that a reference to the third X-Men 3 or the fact that this is the third in this trilogy and it's the weakest of these three?
I thought it was a reference to X-Men's Last Stand, which was a bad movie.
I know. There's a whole sequence that was cut from here where they actually do go to the mall, Nightcrawler and Jubilee and Cyclops and Marvel Girl. They go to the mall, and there's a commercial out that actually shows a small scene where Nightcrawler drinks a Slurpee and gets a brain freeze. You actually see that on TV.
Something's wrong.
Brain freeze.
What? I froze my brain?
Jubilee at one point does use her powers in the mall sequence. They go to a record store and they find a Dazzler album. Dazzler is another
nice.
X-Men, which is really cool. So there's a whole sequence there that was cut. They said they're not going to do a director's cut like they did in the last movie, the Rogue
You'll
cut.
probably get deleted scenes, but
Yes.
you probably won't get a Rogue's cut. I enjoyed Stan Lee's cameo this
Yes,
time.
and
'cause
his wife
his
got
wife
him.
was in it. That was great. I had seen a documentary on Stan Lee. There's a documentary.
Yes, I saw that
And I
too.
saw it. It's the only reason I would have known that was her. But they are a wonderful couple, so it was great to see them. It was great to see Weapon X. I thought Weapon X was
It
great.
was exciting because we
He had the
knew
gear.
Wolverine was in it.
He had the helmet and
He
everything.
didn't have the visor, but you want to see it's Hugh Jackman there.
Mm-hmm.
They came in and brought him in because he actually agreed to do it even before contracts were signed because he was already. It was obviously one of the later things that they shot because he was already in training to get himself all beefed up for his Wolverine movie.
I don't know who said this, and I'm having trouble remembering what actor.
There's
it was.
pictures of
It might have
him
been
online in Wolverine 3 right now. You can see him with the beard, it's getting gray and everything.
It might be Hugh Jackman that said this, but it's like he'll keep doing it as long as he can. No, this wasn't Hugh Jackman that said it. It was another actor who has to get really jacked up in shape to do a movie. And James Bond. What's his
Daniel
name?
Craig.
Daniel Craig was talking about. He's like, I love doing James Bond, but he can only do it for so long because
You don't want to do Roger Moore.
It takes so long to get your body into that tip-top physical shape.
And it's
the
hard to-
older you get, the harder it is to do.
Not only is it the older you get, but the more millionaire you become, all of a sudden you forget the fact that you were lucky to get the job, and you're like, I don't have to do this anymore. I'm a millionaire.
Well, at that point, you start.
I'm a
you're
millionaire.
Like, give me all the PEDs and everything and the human growth hormones to help me
Just
work
do
out
it on
harder
a
and
computer,
bigger.
man. Just make
That's
him look
true.
on a computer.
They totally can do
The
that.
Wolverine sequence, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mhm.
It was neat seeing him in there. It got a little creepy with him and Jean Grey, with the fact that he's got like 25 years on this particular actress.
I think he's got more than 25 years. On
Well,
her,
she's
but-
18, and he's, let's see, 28, 38, 40. He's like, yeah, he's only like 25 years
Okay.
older than her. Whatever, it's going to be creepy no matter what.
Yes.
And they realize, like,
Yeah,
this isn't going to work anymore. This isn't going to work until she's... Because, like, Famke Jensen is actually older than him in real life. So it worked in the first movie. In fact, she's, like, way older. She was way older than the guy who played Cyclops. So Cyclops was handled well in this movie. Well done.
I like that actor. I just saw him in, which is not a good movie, but Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and I really
I
enjoyed
thought
him.
they
in that
handled him really well. It was exciting to see him in the costume
I
at the end
enjo-
of the movie
I
because
enjoyed
he was
him
in the
taking-
actual Jim Lee costume. All the costumes at the end were
Well, he doesn't
much
have the
closer.
hood yet. I
That was
still
no,
want
the Jim
hood.
Lee version didn't have the
I
hood.
know. I want the hood on him, but that's just
I do too.
Again, what I grew up with. I also like the way he would take control, like the way he would lead, and I really appreciated that. Like he's the leader.
yeah.
In my X-Men, he's always been the leader, and he always bumps heads with Wolverine, and they always
Mm-hmm.
battle over Jean Grey.
They did finally acknowledge that Havoc is the older brother because obviously in the comic books, Cyclops is the older brother. Havoc is like 3 years younger than him or something. This Havoc is 20 plus years older than him. But yes, they acknowledged that once they made that first movie with Havoc, people were questioning, because they never really said he had a brother, and they never really focused on Havoc's last name, Alex Summers versus Scott Summers.
We never got Havoc in the black outfit. With
Yeah.
the,
Hey, we actually got him more than I thought we were
Mm-hmm.
going to do. Again, he ended up blowing up the whole place. He screwed up. Whoops.
well, it takes
And
him,
it- and he's
it takes
growing-
like 5 minutes to fix the place. Though.
And he's growing that hair because he's the new MacGyver in TV's reboot
is
of
he?
MacGyver. Well, they never acknowledged Nightcrawler's parent because
yeah.
parents were Mystique and Azazel, who was actually in X-Men First Class, the red demon-looking.
At least
character who
I thought they
teleported.
were going to acknowledge that. Like, hey, I'm my name's Hank McCoy. I've met your father. I fought against him. Like, you have the same last name, I believe. Like,
No, there's no last name.
there's no last name.
No.
Okay.
Kurt Wagner. Yeah, well, the comic book thing, took years to reveal that. I think somebody in the comic books finally said, "Hey, you know what? These guys are both blue." At a certain
Well, they
point,
did
they
good
run out of
jokes
ideas.
about the blue in this. You're no longer blue. I'm no longer blue. I'm blue.
Why aren't you blue? Because we're popular actors now.
Oh, Jesus.
Kelsey Grammer never took off that fur, except on one hand for a couple seconds.
And I also want Beast to be bigger. I wish they would set I know again, Deadpool spoiled us with Colossus being a gigantic
Mm-hmm.
person like he's supposed to be. I kind of want Beast. Beast is not the size of Colossus, but Beast is supposed to be a beast. He's supposed to be an animal.
We've covered the Jennifer Lawrence thing with Mystique, I think, enough.
Yes.
The Jean Grey Phoenix flare-up at the end. I didn't really need to see Phoenix at this point. Phoenix
These
in the
are-
comic
these
books
are-
is actually a cosmic entity, but that's fine.
They're putting seeds in the ground because they realize
but
they have
I don't
to create
need,
this
you know what, but I
cosmic-
don't want to
this
see that
world.
storyline again. We've done it.
Sure.
They failed. You don't have to try again. There's a ton of stories out there. Use some other storylines. I'm fine with that. Jean Grey hanging out at the end, that was a little frustrating where it's like, well, all that was going on at the end of the movie. It's like, what's Jean doing?
Just
What's
staring
Jean
at
doing? She's staring.
Professor
It's like,
Xavier.
I know she's waiting for her moment, but it was a little annoying. But on the counter, when she's walking forward, walking on the air, I was like, oh, that's great. That's great. I was very happy with that. Storm coming to the good side of the good was great at the end. I was hoping Psylocke would do it. They didn't, let that happen. But again, they didn't kill her.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. You can leave villains out there in the world.
I like when Mystique was posing as her, which was good. They show her cutting his throat, which established that he actually had taken those powers from the body he was in, Poe Dameron's body, as we will always reference him.
When he becomes Wolverine. So if you want to kill Wolverine, that's how you do it. You have to have Phoenix. You have to have Jean Grey explode his particles. You have to have Magneto hit him with a bunch of metal. You have to have Cyclops shooting his eye beams into him. So we also have we had the director cameo. Bryan Singer did make a cameo
He gets
appearance in the
killed by
Weapon X.
Wolverine. Yeah, Weapon
Right before
X.
the camera turns and shows the blood on the wall. The blood
I didn't realize
splatter.
that was him then. I read about that later. And
We had the same-
Stryker took off
Took off.
for some reason.
Well, he was like, I got to get out of here. But I like seeing that actor again. I like that actor as Stryker.
Well, him and Nicholas Hoult, who played Beast, they were the two guys together in Mad Max Fury Road. Those both were the two
Yeah,
guys
that's
on
right.
that vehicle, which is awesome.
That's right. We also I like the throwback here to earlier one with when Magneto's asking Charles, he's like, what if they find your children and all that? And
Yeah, it was okay.
I like it. It gave me goosebumps. I was like, yes, there's that line again. I pity the person who
What
comes
else?
in his
I think
house.
we've
We have
covered
the
so
chair,
much.
The chair comes back and he also loses his hair. Not his eyebrows, just the top of his head.
That's where his
Professor
power's
X.
at. His brain's there. He's telepathic.
His brain's not at the front of his head at all.
That's below that. It's right there.
I don't know if you know this, but your brain is like all through here. It's not. It's not like.
This is weird, people.
not
He's
like right
pointing
here.
to his stomach. I don't know why he's pointing to his stomach right now.
I thought you were gonna say genitals. It was cool seeing the Sentinels at the end, repurposed Sentinels for the Danger Room.
It was, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, wait, actually, we've already seen these.
No,
It was
it's
neat.
cool that they repurposed them.
It was neat seeing
in
the
their
Danger Room, yeah.
Because it's not the It's not the holographic.
That's what I
Danger
want.
Room.
That brings up. You know what I want the next X-Men movie to do and want to? Go to outer space. There are a ton of great X-Men in outer space movies, storylines. They could do that. In fact, the Shi'ar Empire, they eventually, when one of the million times the X-Mansion gets destroyed, as it does, when they get a connection with the X-Men, they actually incorporate their technology into the Danger Room to explain why the Danger Room's technology is even great at making holograms and stuff, because it's got alien technology mixed into it, which is brilliant. So that's something I would love them to do an outer space story. I thought Sophie, what's her name?
Sophie Turner.
Sophie Turner did a wonderful job as Jean Grey.
Mhm.
Didn't care for her hair pulled back in those scenes at the end because it wasn't flattering to her head, but she still was phenomenal. And yeah, she's got. It's good for her. Her like not getting typecast as Game of Thrones.
So Jerry's gonna give us a little explanation here on the post-credit
he's not.
sequence.
Oh,
Because there's two things about that I've read.
okay.
X-23.
Yes. The scene at the end is we seeing somebody come into Alkaline Lake and guys in suits take Wolverine's blood or Wolverine's fluids or whatever that is into a vial, and they have in a briefcase labeled Essex Corporation. Essex ties into a character called Mr. Sinister, who is a villain in the comic books who ties into Apocalypse or ties into the Mutant Massacre, which was a great book, and he's a villain who's a scientist. He was involved in making Madeline Pryor, who was a clone of Jean Grey, who he was involved with Cyclops as a child. Suffice it to say, he's a great villain. Now, how are they going to tie him in? Is this tying in something to the next X-Men movie, or is it more likely tying into the next Wolverine movie? We don't know. It could be either one. The idea being, if it's Wolverine, then this is all leading towards that one. Or if it's the X-Men movie, because they're not going to get Hugh Jackman again, maybe they make a clone of Wolverine like they did in the comic books, character called X-23, which is a female clone of Wolverine. Sans sideburns, obviously.
Oh,
Those don't
You can
show
give
up.
her the sideburns,
And she's
right?
got 2 claws on each hand and 1 on each foot, because feet need claws to pop out. They just like, what are we gonna do? I don't know, do claws on the feet. So
Would you be happy with that?
I don't need that.
I want
no.
Wolverine.
I want Wolverine in costume.
Mhm.
I want the mask. So if Hugh Jackman doesn't want to do anymore.
Do a voice.
Unfortunately, we're stuck because Hugh Jackman is so associated with it that if he doesn't do it, they will probably go the route of an X-23 versus getting in just Wolverine, doing it. Maybe they get a different guy playing Charles Xavier. I don't know. There's so many options. Anything else?
So our next movie is going to take place in the 90s. Well, that's the thought. I mean, that's the thought for the next X-Men movie. 60s and the 70s.
I
and
doubt that. I think they're
80s,
going to go
90s.
into an X-Force or New Mutants or deal with
No,
the
no, I mean,
timeline. I think they're
again-
going to deal with the time. I don't know. How do you deal with timeline? Because Deadpool clearly takes place
Present
in
day.
20. It's not like it takes place in the 2000s. No. It takes place in 20. I'll say 15. I'll say 15 because it was made in 15.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2015. That's I don't know. 83, 93. That's 30 years ago. So how do they tie these characters in? They can't. It's a
Well,
mess.
that's why you do the next movie takes place in the 90s.
So
the
they
next
can
movie-
never tie them together. So you can't do an X-Force movie, but they're talking about X-Force with those characters, including Deadpool. Do you put Deadpool in the past? You can't.
No.
It's a mess.
Well, that's why. I mean, if you do the 90s and then so the next, I don't know when we're gonna get next X-Men movie. The next, I'm not talking like spin-off like Deadpool. The next X-Men movie is it going to be in another 20 years? I mean, 20 years. It's going to be another 2 years, another 4 years. And then you put them in the 90s, and the next one you do that, you do the 2010s. And
So
then,
all of our characters all the new young characters have to now age 10 years too?
well, sometimes people age quickly. I mean, James McAvoy has aged a lot, and not enough, obviously, for the time period.
Yeah.
But
I think, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I think they've written themselves into yet another corner with continuity, and they're just going to say,
or you just go back to
"Screw it."
or you just have the older X-Men again being at the actual age they're supposed to be.
No, because they got these kids under contract, and
They
they're
do.
going to go with them. So
You know, bringing Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen again to be the old guys again.
I think you're right. They probably do a 90s, and they go that route. But I
And
don't
then
know.
90s
I don't
you bring in
know. I don't know.
Morph just for a quick cameo. But then you could bring, I mean, because again, you go to the 90s and you can bring back maybe Sabretooth, maybe Juggernaut.
I've heard Sabretooth may show up in the Old Man Logan, but we'll see.
I mean, there's a lot. There's so much they can do.
Do the
with
space
it. And
movie.
I thought it was. I thought there was a lot of
You
smart.
send
stuff,
them in
so.
space. They all go in space. They get in through some wormhole, and it shoots them through to present day, and they jump past time. So our whole cast of characters now exist in 2015, but they're young still.
with Colossus.
Yes, boom, and they go, "Oh, how'd this happen?" And it's a time vortex.
But then you got to
thing.
grab everyone like the Striker, the young Striker. Does he go through too?
Nah,
to keep
forget it.
that
Don't worry
actor?
about that. You don't have time for that. You got to introduce
You
other
ain't got time
characters.
for that.
No one's
You
got
don't
time for that. I think we've covered way too much on this,
No,
or I
I
think
thought it
we
was
covered just
Just
enough.
enough. Yeah.
So did anything change in your thoughts on
No,
this?
actually, I'm still jazzed about it. I'm still enjoying the thought.
And
of it
again,
everything.
I give this movie a B. I put this in category. I still think I rank them as first class, and then X2, Days of Future Past, somewhere in there. Then Xmen Apocalypse, X-Men, the first one, Wolverine, then X3, and then Wolverine Origins. Deadpool is up in the top somewhere up there. It's kind of such a weird, its own entity.
Mhm.
But there we go.
Where do you put it in the movies that came out this year, as far as superhero films this year?
I don't know.
What do we have?
I can't do it.
We have the four.
I can't do it.
Civil War, Deadpool.
I can't do it. They're all
Batman v
different.
Superman.
I have no. That's such a hard question. I can't rank that mess. Nah, they're all. Captain America's at the top, and the other three are fighting underneath it.
Fighting. We should have.
I want to see Suicide Squad though. That looks good.
that's
August
good.
5th.
We should have that movie where all the movies fight. That'd be great.
Excellent. If you would like to join the conversation, give your opinions or any feedback, contact us on Facebook at Bennett Brothers Podcast is our Facebook, or you can get in touch with us through our Twitter account at Bennett Bros Pod, which has been fun to twit, as the kids say. And we also are on iTunes. If you could leave us a review or a thumbs up or a star or a happy smiley face, I'd love to get feedback. That's kind of one of the reasons we do this, is to hear it's like, oh, people actually do listen to it, which is fun. If you want to send us an email, we're at BennettBrothersPodcast@gmail.com. Anything else, Joel?
Nope.
All right, then this has been our 99th episode.
Ooh, stay tuned. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Do you have any thoughts? What do you want? There's still a few more coming in. We take all comers. Joe Zeman, you got some weird ideas. We'll see if we'll use them. Thanks for talking to us. I'm Jerry.
I'm Joel. We'll talk to you next time.
X-Men.